Good morning, and once again, Shabbat Shalom. It is our privilege to spend some time this morning with Rabbi Hillel Silverman. Good morning, Hillel. It's great to see you.
Good morning, Ed. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So we are talking about Parshat Shmini in the middle of the book of Vayikra, and I think we're going to talk about dietary traditions, right?
Right.
Please.
It's probably the first passage in the Bible having to do with the dietary laws, with kashrut. The only other passage is in the book of Deuteronomy. And this morning, we read of the animals that are permitted. Two qualifications. An animal has to have a split hoof, malfrested parsa, and it has to chew the cud. It has to be ma'alat yerah, which eliminates actually carnivorous animals. There are only few animals that are permitted, and many, many animals are not. All we can have really on a Jewish table is lamb or beef. Of course, fish is a bit different. The qualifications are fins and scales, snapir, kashkashet. And this eliminates fish that live on the bottom of the ocean and consume other fish. There's nothing there's nothing in this morning's Sedra mentioning milk and meat, mentioning dishes, mentioning all of the details of keeping a kosher home. Even shchita is not mentioned, ritual slaughtering of animals. All of the details of the dietary laws are really contained in the book of the Talmud called Chulin. And these laws are amplified in the Mishnah Torah, in the Torah, in the Shulchan Aruch. It's a rather complicated thing. I've always felt that kashrut is one of the fundamental laws of the Jewish people. I categorize it sometimes into Sabbath, holidays, prayer, dietary laws, and ethics. I repeat, I feel personally, though all of the laws are important, that the fundamental observances of the Jewish people are the Sabbath, the holidays, prayer, dietary laws, and ethics. Of course, in our tradition, there are 613, probably a lot less since the destruction of the temple. All of them are important. The Jewish people have always made a special effort to keep the dietary laws. Oftentimes, it was not easy to do this. I'll never forget when I was stationed as a Marine on Parris Island in Beaufort, South Carolina. In order to obtain kosher food, we had to procure the meat from Charleston, South Carolina, which was almost 100 miles away. But we did it. It was a challenge, but we did it. Oftentimes, we placed kosher meat on buses wrapped in ice, and that way we were able to fill our refrigerator with kosher meat. It wasn't easy. Another time, I was in Naples, Italy, where I was stationed with the Sixth Fleet for a year and a half. The kosher meat in Naples at that time was not easy to obtain, and so we obtained it from Rome, and it was delivered to us in cracked ice by buses on their routes. The kosher laws set the Jew apart, made the Jew different. Now, why would we want to observe dietary laws? I don't think that the health reasons are sufficient to bring us to observe kashrut. A pig does breed trichinosis in hot countries where there is no refrigeration. but it doesn't today. The fish breed a ptomaine poisoning, oysters and lobster and crab. So I don't think that health is a reason. So what are the reasons? Uh, if a person says, God has commanded me to observe the dietary laws, that is sufficient reason. But if you are looking for something more to observe the dietary laws, I share with you 5 very valid reasons. There is a spiritual reason. Every time we eat, we associate the dietary laws with our religion. And then there is, of course, number 2, tradition. It is an ancient tradition going back thousands of years. And Jews have sacrificed on many occasions, even lost their lives in order to observe the dietary law. Number 3 is self-preservation or self-identification, in which we acknowledge our difference that keeps us apart. I'll never forget when I was in Dallas in the 50s. I'm a member of the Rotary Club, and there were very few Jews there, and certainly no rabbis in the Rotary Club in those days. And I fastidiously observed the dietary laws. I would only eat a salad or egg salad or tuna fish salad. And one unhappy day, the waitress, believe it or not, brought me a dish of pork. And the members all arose in protest. They were embarrassed by the waitress who brought their rabbi, I quote, their rabbi, forbidden food. They didn't have the slightest idea what the dietary laws were. All they knew was that I observed them because they were listed in the book of Leviticus. And so that's another reason, keeping the Jew different or apart. And then there is an ethical reason, which I think is very, very important. There is something really immoral about taking the life of an animal for your satisfaction. And so our tradition severely limits the animals that are permitted, actually only lamb or beef. And so the reason is an ethical reason. In the garden, in the story of the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve are permitted, if you remember, to eat fruit and eat vegetables, no meat. It was only after the flood, when Noah left the ark, that he was told by God that he would be able to consume animals as he did before vegetables or fruit. I admire a vegetarian. I sympathize with a vegetarian who understands that there is something improper for us to eat of animal flesh. Another reason is discipline. It's a challenge to observe dietary laws. I repeat, 5 good reasons. And there is not just one reason, but many different reasons today to take seriously the dietary laws. I repeat them. Number 1, spiritual reason. Number 2, tradition. Number 3, self-preservation. Number 4, the ethical reason. And number 5, discipline or challenge. The rabbis tell us interesting observation about the pig. Why is the pig chosen to represent the animal that is not permitted? After all, there are many other animals that do not have the 2 distinctions of cloven hoof or registering the above. So the answer is the pig is traced because it hides the snout, which does not observe one of the dietary restrictions, chewing the cud, but it lifts up its hands, which are permitted. There is a cloven hoof, as if to say, see, I am kosher, I am kosher. In other words, the pig is the hypocrite animal here. The pig is the one who observes in the sham and the pretense. And so we have reasons for observing the dietary laws. I'm going to tell you a story now. It's not my story. It's Rabbi Ed Feinstein's story. I've told this for many, many years from my pulpit. Your rabbi, Rabbi Feinstein, pointed out to the congregation that when the earthquake occurred, you remember that, and all or most of his furniture was destroyed, and certainly all of his dishes. And so Farmers Insurance sent an assessor to his home to estimate the damage. And he looked at the rabbi's dishes. He said, well, how many sets are there? And the rabbi said, 6 sets, at least. And the assessor from the insurance company said, 6 sets? Why so many? And so the rabbi said, I know you're not Jewish, but you have to understand, in my tradition, we have 2 sets. One is milk and one is meat. And we add a 3rd set usually for the good, as a special meat dishes when we have yes. And the assessor said, well, that's 3. Where do you get 6? And the rabbi said, well, then there's Passover. On Passover, you also have the meat dishes and the milk dishes, the milchik and the fleishik. And some Jews have even more. They have 7, they have 8 in order to have special milk dishes on a weekday. And the insurance assessor looked at the rabbi and he was puzzled. He said, this is what your God commands you to do, to have 7, 8 sets of dishes? Why did your God bring an earthquake if he's so powerful? And of course the rabbi answered, the God brought you, the assessor from the Farmers Insurance, to make sure that I would pay for all of my dishes that were destroyed. I think we should take dietary laws today very seriously. I think that there are very, very important reasons to observe the dietary laws. I repeat them, not one reason, but at least 5 and probably more. First, the spiritual reason. Secondly, the traditional reason. Third, self-preservation, identification. Fourth, the ethical reason. Fifth, discipline. It is a really challenge. And I think you will find, if you observe the dietary laws and take them seriously, it will change your life. I think it's a wonderful thing to observe the dietary laws. Everyone would be welcome to your home. Your rabbi would be welcome. Your zayda, your bubby, an Orthodox neighbor. It's very difficult to have people come to your home and not be able to serve them food. I think it's fascinating that you find kosher restaurants all over the world. I know how I was affected in my travels when I found a kosher restaurant in China, in India, in Japan, in Taiwan, in the northernmost part of Norway, in South America, in Chile. Everywhere you go, there are Jews who take seriously the dietary laws. I think that you really would be well off to consider observing the dietary laws. Dennis Prager once said, when you ask the question, do you accept the dietary laws? You don't say no, that's no answer. The answer is not yet. We Jews who do not observe the dietary laws should take them seriously and say, not yet. We can begin very slowly. It's not all or nothing. You begin very simply, perhaps avoid pig products. And a little bit later, you take just permitted meats. And then you differentiate between the milk and the meat. And though you go on to observe kosher, and you'll discover that it will be a very, very important contribution to your ethical life. We have a greeting in Hebrew, have a good meal we say, enjoy a good meal, b'tei avon, b'tei avon. And so I say to you this morning, b'tei avon and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. I'm hungry already, so thank you so very, very much. We'll go have lunch. Thank you, and take good care. We look forward to learning with you in the days to come.
I loved your story about the dishes.
That man was so incredulous because he said, "What kind of God does this to your house?" And I said, "A God who sends me the insurance. That's what kind of God." Stay well.
Thank you.